My name is Wedge. I'm a consultant at Clearbox Consulting, and we focus on digital strategy, which of course often involves your communication channels and the intranet. I've been helping medium and large companies with their intranet design and improvement for 20 years, I guess, if you include my work in-house at Marconi and Severn Trent Water mostly. And now I'm a consultant with Clearbox, and I help all sorts of organizations around the country and indeed around Europe. Today is a little bit of a live session. I'm going to be literally designing pages before your very eyes inside of SharePoint Online. But first, a little bit of advice, because when we're dealing with intranet pages, a lot of people think that SharePoint is dull and boring, that SharePoint always looks like SharePoint, and that is true to a certain extent. But actually, there's lots we can do to improve the impact of your comms and content and improve the readability and usability, the accessibility of your intranet pages and your intranet news. I do think that we can treat news, the news posts that we post to the intranet homepage, differently and separately to the intranet content, the reference pages that build up the majority of the iceberg of your intranet. I think we can treat them differently, but actually, when it comes to templates and using page layouts, we can learn a lot from news, we can learn a lot from reference pages and the practice of content design. So a little bit of advice: you don't have to take a screenshot of this very valuable slide, as we will blog and we will email you out some details to help you consider your intranet page layout and your intranet templates. My first piece of advice is to start with templates. I'm going to be showing you how to build a good page, but actually the good page layout should already be available to you inside SharePoint Online. The difficulty is that Microsoft offer default templates, which I suggest are not very good. They're far too wide, and they consider a linear reading experience, which I don't think is appropriate for a wide screen and not very good for a small screen, although they can be great on mobile. So really, this is about having a good page layout and then transforming it into a template. I'm not going to show you how to do that, as I don't have time in a live demo, but transforming a good page layout into a template just takes a couple of clicks and then a little bit of best practice. So let's move on a little bit. Just remember that everything I do here, we're going to blog, and I would like to show you some examples right away during the demo. And these examples are already online. And if you're lucky, Nick is going to put these example URLs into the chat panel for you, so you can have a bit of a nosy around. But these examples and these guidance links, especially line length, reading width advice, that's key. It's something not everyone does with their SharePoint intranet. So that line length one is key, and that's going to be in the chat panel for you and in the email we send you when we send you this video. So straight to the browser, I'm going to show you a bad page, which I think you'll recognize as fairly common. I'm going to show you the 3 brilliant pages that I've pre-prepared and that are in the chat panel already. And then I'm going to do an actual build. Now, who knows how well my actual build will go? I'll be dealing with SharePoint, and sometimes I'm forgetful. But we're going to have a lot of fun as we deal with sections and columns. Let me see if I can switch to the browser now. Hello, that's me. I'm going to share my browser window. So you should be able to see my demo environment now. If you're on a small screen, it may appear a little bit small, but I think you'll get the gist of what I'm doing here today. So I promised a bad page first. Here I am in the navigation. I'm clicking on bad, and this is a regular SharePoint page. If you use the default templates in SharePoint Online, it's very easy to say, well, I've got 400 words, or someone has emailed me 600 words in a Word document. Fine, I'll copy those words and I'll paste them into SharePoint. If your department intranet publishers are doing reference content or indeed news posts, it's very likely that the end result will look something like this. Notice at the top, the image isn't perfect. I've cut off everything about them, and it's a header image. So, I can't do much better than that unless I had a different way of doing things, which I will show you. As I scroll down, it's all text, because perhaps someone emailed me this and said, HR have already approved this, You cannot sub-edit it. You cannot improve this. HR have already approved it. So of course, it's a wall of text. Maybe they attached a photograph. And so, oh, this is a screenshot, by the way. This is a screenshot of SharePoint, as it turns out. So they've attached a photograph, or they've attached a screenshot. And so you put it, you have to put it at the end of your article, or the internet publisher puts it automatically at the end of the article. So it's not very satisfying. It is a wall of text. It may be crucial. It may be important. It's certainly readable, but it's not very impactful. So now I'm going to show you a Fandabby-Dozy page. Yes, it's overly long. Yes, it's overly Fandabby-Dozy, but it's just an example of what you can do in SharePoint to create a reading experience that is very not SharePoint. Now, you may be able to do this in other intranet systems. Other intranet products do exist. And a lot of my advice is useful for any intranet system, or indeed any website system, because it's all about readability and impact. So first thing I've done is I've got a very large header. I am not a fan of very large headers, but it is impactful for something that's fun and non-crucial. As I go down, I've got an opening paragraph that's in larger text, a nice image, a Yule image, and then I go into something a little bit more, excuse me, then I go into something a little bit more useful. So there's a bullet point list, which is guaranteed to be read, and there are some nice buttons on the right-hand side. So they're bound to be read because I've displayed them so nicely. Then we go into an impactful call-out quote. There's a video. That's YouTube, but you could use Stream. You can use a SharePoint video. There's Adam here on the right-hand side, and if I hover, I get more details about Adam. But I have to be told that I can hover rather than just automatically clicking. So it's a good idea to have a little bit of text beneath it that says, hey, you can hover over my face. You don't have to click. Okay, this page is getting a little bit long, but look how nice that image is on the right-hand side. It fits so well with the three large buttons that I've got there. And then we've got a very nice graphical pyramid. I tried to make it look like a pyramid. I almost got it, but the sky is red and blue. And that's native SharePoint. If you have a little bit of data, 5 pieces of data or 10 pieces of data, you can do a bar chart, you can do a pie chart. Just remember that you'll want to explain it as well. So I'm putting the explanation on the right-hand side. There's a nice piece of instruction. It's an impactful, it looks like a quote, but really it's just an instruction. It's large, it's got its own background. And then I've tried to do something cool, but not very cool. I've used an image with an invisible background to kind of match the background of SharePoint. Maybe you could do better, actually. And then at the very bottom, I've got some options. There's obviously too much going on here. There's some large images with text that is clickable. Then there's little images with call to actions, which is definitely clickable to go somewhere else. And then at the very bottom, SharePoint sites that you may want to visit. So one of these choices might make an interesting next step, because no web page, no intranet page should be a cul-de-sac. There should always be somewhere else to go. So that's my very long page. It's too much. It really is too much, but it might make a good landing page if you are focused on your content. So let me flip to how good a regular page or a news post can look, considering what we did with that long page. So I have my image on the right-hand side because the header image really is too narrow to be illustrative of the topic. So really it's for decoration, well, not decoration, it's for illustration, but it can't fit the whole image. But on the right-hand side, you can fit the whole image. And this text that SharePoint gives me is real text. I didn't put it on Photoshop on top of the image. So it's real text, so it's accessible and editable. If I put a typo in there, I can fix it. There's my quote, and there's my boss, Muriel Maranga. So her name and her face are against the quote. There's some lovely quick links styled as buttons, because although you can put links into the body text, people really notice right-hand side links when they're styled as buttons. And again, maybe you should only choose one of these endings. Maybe those 3 large buttons are enough, or maybe you like the 3 large call to actions. Go to L&D, go to health and safety, read our parental policy. So that's a regular page nicely coloured, nicely split up with headings and paragraphs for a reference page or a news page. Here's a short page. If you still think, well, actually, our bulletins are very short and sharp, it's just text, image, some kind of statement for impact, and some links to help people get into your content or go on to their next steps, L&D, health and safety, the faculty. And I hope you agree, this makes SharePoint feel less like SharePoint. It makes it feel more like a website, and therefore it can create a real user experience, a real brand across your entire intranet. So to the demo, how did I do that? Well, as always, whenever you want to create a page, you start at the front and you use the left-hand button, the new button, excuse me, to create a page or a news post. I'm going to create a news post. And here is where SharePoint leads you astray, because it says here are the default templates, which I'm telling you are too wide and therefore offer a poor reading experience. Your templates, the ones you want to use within your organization, are saved on this second tab. And so we want to help people use the templates that you provide. But I'm going to start with blank, because that way I can show you how to turn a dull blank page into a reasonable reading experience in SharePoint. So you can see how dull it is. There's really nothing here. So everything we do is about improving the original experience. So the first thing we do, because I always start from the top, is let's get our choice of heading in. And I think color block is often far too wide for business critical information, far too tall. On a laptop, it will engulf the screen. So that's fine for a blog, that's fine for a reference page about happy, good things. But if it's business critical or if it's a difficult topic, then I suggest you've got two choices: image and title, which is plain, or overlap, which is kind of plain, but a little bit funky. And here is when you choose to add your topic title if you so wish. So I'm going to say this is the topic, this is the topic. And SharePoint will transform that into full capitals. As you can see, that blue box appeared because I allowed SharePoint to do it. I typed it in. And of course, everyone cares about the publishing date. So remember, always have this turned on. Now it's time to actually get into that image, and SharePoint will help you find the image, or you can upload one that you've got pre-prepared. You can upload one that's brand approved or that you've already downloaded from unsplash.com. I'm going to select this and hope that it's wide enough. Let's have a look at that. Actually, it's a bit dark. Even if I move the, oh, actually the focal point there is kind of nice. So that's reasonable. And the very first thing to do is to get the title sorted. And the reason that's a rush to get the title sorted is it's going to affect the URL. Now, if you feel confident and competent with SharePoint, you know that you can edit the URL at any time, hopefully before publishing, by going into the cog menu at the top right and going into Site Contents. Once you're inside Site Contents, you will, of course, go into Site Pages. You'll find what you've created, realize that the URL is a little bit ugly because SharePoint generated it a little bit too quickly, and you'll fix the URL so it doesn't have weird characters in it that SharePoint stuck in. But if you do the title straight away, you might get away with it and get a nice URL as well. Today, my name is Adam, so I'm putting in the owner of the content. As the publisher, I'm not important. We need to put the content owner's name in there. So that might be the boss of HR, or it might be the HR advisor who handed you the content. So that looks good. Working top to bottom, I've got my image, I've got my header, and I've got my title, topic, and name. So now I'm working down into the body of the content. So this is where we start making changes that SharePoint did not help us with. And that would be sorting out the section. Now, as you can see right now, I'm clicked into the body text, which is a text box. It's classed as a web part, the text web part. You and I might call them widgets. But that's not where we start. You know, you're ready to start pasting in your content, but first let's fix the layout. And that means clicking into the section. All sections are horizontal And if we click into it, we get this little menu on the left-hand side. Can you see we can delete it, we can duplicate it, we can move it? Very important, edit section. If we click this, the right-hand editing pane slides open, and this is what we want to feel really confident and competent in whenever we touch anything in SharePoint. We want to work our way from top to bottom on the editing pane on the right-hand side. Now, you know I'm going to suggest 2 columns, but I would be perturbed, not always horrified, because there are some times on a landing page or a very short page, it can be useful to use 2 columns for design purposes. But if I had 600 words, I would never use 2 columns. Why, I hear you ask? Because that is a holdover from print methodology. If you have a magazine in front of you in your physical hands and it's 2 columns, it's absolutely no bother to have your eyes work the way down one column and then work your way down the next column. At times you might be confused. Am I working across? Am I working down? I can get confused on a modern magazine layout, but it's no bother to flick your eyes. On a screen, it is a bother to scroll all the way down on the left and then realize, hang on, I don't know where I am with the right-hand column. And then, like with a badly formatted PDF, you have to scroll all the way to the top. You might say, well, actually, Wedge, I did that quite naturally with rubbish, terribly laid out PDFs. It's no problem. But it is a problem. You're adding cognitive load to your intranet. And there's just no need to add cognitive load to your intranet. We want to make everything easy. So the fact is, we allow people to scroll down, and that's it. If they want to scroll back up for their own revision purposes, that's fine, but we don't force them to scroll back up. So this 2-column layout that's kind of on screen now is only appropriate for funky pages, funky landing pages where you want to put blocks of stuff in. For textual content, when it's a linear read, top to bottom, we're going to use this last option, which is called 1/3 right. And we're not going to put our content in the right-hand side. That's where we put our ancillary content, our supportive content, and that would mean the image. So I'm going to do that right now, actually. I'm going to pop an image in, and SharePoint immediately says, hey, let me help you do that image. That may well annoy you. It sometimes annoys me, I get it. But let's find one. Now, I could upload one by clicking upload. So that would be very obvious. If I'm doing a story, I've likely got a photograph of the real thing that's going on from around my organization. But just to help you realize that web search is available, but sometimes I feel unsure if I have the copyright right to use the images it comes up with. So if I'm looking for something illustrative and generic, I'm going to use the stock images search, which Microsoft have worked hard to be inoffensive and to be copyright and royalty free, which means we're not stealing anyone's work by accident. So if I have a look at the working tab, do I like any of these? I kind of do already. I know some of them are generic, but if I only need something which is illustrative to illustrate my points, then something non-offensive but illustrative is a good call. Now, that is rectangular and it kind of looks quite reasonable. I wonder if I can make it look good as a square, because I love squares. I think they're very now. I think it adds a fantastic structure to your page. It does mean cutting the glasses and the coffee in half, but I like that. So I'm going to say yes to that. So by clicking on some white space by some empty space, SharePoint will listen to that cut. It will listen to me and it starts doing it for me. So this is really useful. You know, you don't have to open up your equivalent of Photoshop and do your own image editing. SharePoint can quickly help you itself. Of course, that's got a little bit small. So now I'm going to click on it and I'm going to drag the edges to be as big as possible. And now that I've edited it, I must fix the alt text. If you did the alt text before you edited it, I'm afraid you have to do the alt text all over again. So glasses, notepad, coffee, cup. Could do a little bit better than that, perhaps, but that's good enough for our demo today. And here on the right-hand pane is where we choose to add the text overlay. If I wanted to, I could now add text. Weirdly, you have to now type into the image. So I'm not on the right-hand page, I'm actually in the image. I'm going to turn that off just for now. And then I'm really going to do a caption. So I'll just put Notepad. A caption's a great place for when you've got named people in the photographs. Everyone wants to know who's in the photographs. So that's a nice square image. It's on the right-hand side, and I've done the alt text and the Notepad. I've put the word Notepad as the caption. On the right-hand side is we want to do our text. You've got a couple of choices here. So firstly, the opening paragraph, you might choose to allow to be larger than 18. My general advice is we're trying to ask our intranet publishers, don't mess with fonts too much. Don't put everything in bold. Never use red text. Please don't use green text unless, I don't know, there's some kind of reason, but there's no reason, I promise you. Be careful with italics, and don't change the size. However, there are some exclusions. There are some times when you can change the size. So perhaps the opening paragraph can be 24. And I do that with the formatting bar and the drop-down menu. But after that opening paragraph, I'm going to be really strict and everything is going to be in 18, apart from ancillary instructions, which I allow to be 16. And the reason why they're allowed to be 16 is you're going to probably repeat them quite often throughout your intranet. Please click to open the file, that sort of thing. The dull instructions can be in 16. But our general text, and now I need to go and get some general text. So I'm just going to pop to Clearbox and get some general text. So here's me searching our blog. Okay, integrations, that's good. So imagine you were handed some text. You copy that text and you want to paste it into a text box. Now for space-wise, you could paste it after this opening text as long as you get size 18, but you have to do your own return. SharePoint has no double return, so you have to do a return yourself and then you can paste. And if you think, oh gosh, those bullets are not how I expected, then what you do is you select all of the content that you've pasted and now you want to clear the formatting, just in case any formatting came over from when you copied from Word. That's deadly when we get style from Word. It can really damage the format and styling of your SharePoint page. So here in the format bar, I'd like you to look at the ellipsis menu. Whenever you are lost on SharePoint, it's probably because Microsoft have hidden the thing you want inside the 3-dot menu. So if I open up this, look, there's lots more things you can do. The numbered list may well be interesting, but I'm just going to press clear all formatting. And that takes out anything that's extraneous. Apparently, I can put in the bullet points myself. If I do that twice, apparently that's good enough. The only thing is there's no space at the bottom of the bullet points and there's no space at the top. So I'm going to fix that myself by doing that. Can you see I'm putting in extra return breaks? By doing 2, I get rid of that last extraneous bullet point. So already I've created a nice page, but I haven't finished yet because now I want to add additional sections. Now, if I've created a blank section, I could use a duplicate button, and that'd be a quick way, but I'm going to create a full section so that I can do my interesting quote. So I will need a text box for this. So search for text in SharePoint. Here is my text box. Whack it up to 20 or 24 for an interesting, can't type while I'm being watched, an interesting statement or instruction, or perhaps a quote. But you might find that you want to put someone's photograph in there. So again, we edit the section. And here, I might choose 1/3 left as an alternative. And now I'll drag my text over. You see how easy it is to drag and drop in SharePoint? And now I want an image. There it is waiting for me. And here is where I would upload or search for a previous image of the person that I'm looking for. So I'm going to use these people, but really it would be the portrait of the person who you're quoting. So let me just zoom in on that square and resize it down to that person's face. Not bad for a little bit of quickness. and her name is Jo Smith. Now, you might find when you publish this article that you're unhappy with the spacing of this text box against this image. So my top tip is to add space. And if it's not there on screen for you, search for the word space, and there it comes up as a spacer. And now you get to juggle it. You might be able to grasp it and move it up and down so that you feel you're making a nice layout. And really, you can only test this nice layout after you've saved your draft or even published it. So don't be afraid of saving the draft and then looking at it as to do a little critique of your own. Now here in the section, here's the right-hand pane. Here's your opportunity to separate your content or highlight your interesting statement. I wonder if I can fix the spelling of that. No, I can't. Here's your opportunity to make your statement stand out or split the body of your content up. So I can use plain colors, or in the last couple of months, Microsoft have rolled out images, I believe. So you've got to be aware that it might change your text from black to white, and that's a good thing. If you have a look on the right-hand side, consider the more settings to see what you want to do about making it as pretty but as also accessible as you want. So the overlay color is dark here. If I change it to a light gradient, you can see that might be a mistake. But it might help you depending on the color you choose, the images you choose, and the text that you have. So I'm going to put that back to a dark overlay gradient, and maybe that's okay. So I press X to exit out of that, and now I'm onto the bottom bit. Now again, I need a section here. I can use, I could use the plus sign to add a widget, but that would be full width. So again, I'm suggesting let's build everything with a section. And the new section is the blue, and it gives me these options. It's a little bit of a different format, and it's 1/3 right that I always recommend when you're doing text content. So on the left-hand side, we want to continue the story, and that would be with a text widget, but it's likely that you need a heading by now. And so if you copied and pasted from Word, that heading might come through as heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. Maybe that's okay, but really, for standard intranet pages, it's likely that you need it to be heading 2. If that came through via Word and it's heading 2, lovely, amazing. But if not, it's up to you to fix it yourself by getting onto the right thing and using the drop-down menu and selecting heading 2. We do not build our headings by hand. We don't do it by increasing the font text, font size, and we don't do it by adding bold. We only use this drop-down menu, heading 2. We don't even add bold to it because we're creating a standard template, a standard good page layout for use across the intranet. We're not asking our departmental publishers to be creative or to do the legwork themselves. Basically, we're doing things SharePoint's way. We're doing things the SharePoint way so that everything is in this format bar, including the ellipsis menu. So it's nice and easy for people who don't do this every day, so they can stick to the rules. So here we have the rest of our text, And again, I want to tidy that up. If I'm unhappy with the pasting, it's up to me to tidy that up as I'm doing now. So a little bit of sub-editing to make it a good layout. Each paragraph should have 1, 2, or 3 sentences in it, but we don't want a wall of text. So to the right-hand side, we're not going to put another image here unless you have another image. So really, what people really enjoy, and people get excited about this because it adds so much ease of use to their intranet, we're going to add some links. Now, the widget, the web part you want to use, in my opinion, is not link, which can be funky, so do experiment, but really, we're going to use quick links. Dreadful name, but it's a great way of adding links that look like buttons. Before I add a link, I'm going to style the entire web part. So I'm not styling the link, I'm styling the web part. The first thing to do is to click on the web part. As you can see, I've got a tiny menu, which can be good enough. You can see button is right there. But I'd like you to be confident and competent with the right-hand editing pane. So I'm going to click the pen or pencil icon to bring up the editing pane, because this is where we do so much of our work. And here, just the same, but I'm going to select button. And as I work from top to bottom, it says show descriptions. I'm okay with that being on yes or no. Icon on left, yeah, I think so. And fill color and no outline can be really nice. I just have a preference for outline. It can work really well with a colored background. And I'm going to choose one line of text for a small button. Maybe at the bottom of the page, you'll do the very same thing, but with big buttons with 2 lines where you will show the description. See the difference? So a big button might be really perfect for the bottom of the page, but I'm going to use the right-hand side, a nice small button. So I've styled the web part. Now it's time to add my link. And of course, the best thing to do is to have the link already copied. So I'm going to copy this link from my website, from the Clearbox website, and I'm going to add a link in SharePoint. Now, the first thing that SharePoint does is it tries to help you. This might be really useful. If you've been working on SharePoint for 4 hours, it's likely that the recent list of items will be relevant. Otherwise, you could go to Site to link to your own pages. But if neither of those are useful, it may well be that you just go from a link, because you've grabbed the link from SharePoint, so you paste it in. Can you see I've just pasted that in? I give it a second, because if it's a SharePoint link, SharePoint itself will recognize that SharePoint link. And I press the add button at the bottom of the page. I wish that button was closer to the field, but never mind. I paste my link in, I press add, I wait a second. We're always patient with SharePoint. And then we look at it with our eyes. We go, is that what I expected? And actually, because it's some title case, that's not how I want my link to appear. Now, if you think about your style guide for comms and internal comms, your style guide for the intranet probably says we use sentence case for titles. So I'm going to change it by hand to 5, emerging lowercase, intranet lowercase, trends lowercase, redefining lowercase. Gosh, it goes on a bit. So it's a little bit long for the button look. So in that case, I'm just going to say 5 emerging intranet trends. So that's great. And now I think about the thumbnail. It might have been automatically generated if SharePoint found something useful. But if not, custom image is right there for me to upload an icon or a brand logo, if appropriate. But actually, 80% of the time during my SharePoint work, I'm going to use the library. And this is great because SharePoint gives you such a great iconography. Now, some of them might already be used for very many HR things. And so you might want to continue that HR language, you know, documents, people help, that sort of thing. But otherwise, you're kind of free to pick an icon that you think is suitable for that link. And if I added several links, it would look really good on the right-hand side. As I said, we're doing this because these button links are really easy for people to use. They notice them, they appreciate them, but you are still allowed to put links into your body text. And so what I would say is you would highlight the text. You may be able to hit Command or Control K. K on your keyboard means hyperlink. I don't know why, but otherwise use the ellipsis menu and do everything the SharePoint way. Here it is adding a hyperlink. And again, you could do a SharePoint search. Can you see the text says platforms someone must visit? So that's my text. But actually, I could have searched for HR help. And SharePoint on screen now is doing a search. So it might be that SharePoint helps you. It's a little bit risky. So really, I would just paste in the URL myself at the top and press save. And there's our URL in the body text, but also on the right-hand side. So I said that links can look good with a background. So again, I'm editing the section background, can't do column. I'm going to choose a dark color in the hope that the button looks amazing. And I think it does. If I press save as draft, the only thing I haven't done is the most important thing, which is the thumbnail and the description. So before I press anything, I'm going to show you page details. The reason why I always forget, and I think your departmental publishers may forget, is because it doesn't feel part of the page. I'll draw your attention to the top. It's next to that translation button or next to email preview, I don't know. It's the cog and it says page details. Once you open it, everything becomes clear. It's like, oh, I know why I need this. The thumbnail on the right-hand side may well or will be shown on your homepage when you publish this as news. It might also show in search results. So in a way, it's kind of important. Now, in my opinion, the thumbnail that you're going to change here should probably match the header image, or when more sensible, it should match the photograph you've put on the right-hand side, you know, the important photograph. So it might be that you change the thumbnail to match the most appropriate image that you're using. I don't think it should be different. Like, I think it should match one of your images. If it didn't match anything, it would be completely random on your homepage and completely random in search results. And here's the important thing for news. The description has to be hand typed in, and you need to be choosing 6, 7, 8, 9 words. If they're long words, or if you go beyond 6, 7, 8, 9 words, it will be truncated on your homepage. And I think that's a great shame. If you have a look at your favorite news websites, they have a title that can be read and is really powerful with lots of keywords. And then underneath that title, they have a standfast, or whatever you call it, an excerpt, which can also be read and adds value to the title. So you go, oh, now I understand, I've got a little bit of context in this description. If you don't do anything here, then I'm afraid the first line of your body text may well be used. And I think that's terrible, because I know that writers, corporate writers, have a habit of easing into their content. They don't get straight to the point. They ease into the content. They do some, as you may know, which is a terrible thing to say because nobody knows anything. They might even say something even worse, such as "we are pleased to announce," which on my intranets is forbidden. So, you know, corporate writers, business writers, we're going to ease into the content, and that's not appropriate for the description, which will show up on your homepage as a news item. So this needs to be 5, 6, 7 words if it's a news item. However, if you're doing a reference page, you know, those permanent pages that make up the majority of the intranet iceberg, you are welcome to use 15, 16 words, because that can really enhance the search results experience. So useful and info dense to support the title. So now I press save as draft, and with my eyes, I'm going to review this and say, am I happy? I'm kind of happy. The quote, which in real life would be a bit longer, it's kind of floating centrally next to Joe Smith. There would be more links, you know, 3 or 4 links, so that'd be a nice link box. But the fact is, I should probably title those links on the right-hand side. So I'm going to press edit again, and I'm going to go in, and of course I will not write quick links, and I will not write further information, and I will not write resources, because all of that terminology is generic, and we do not wish to be generic, we wish to be specific. So these will be specific links, next steps for to get involved. Can't type when I'm being watched. And we press save as draft to review it again with our eyes. And when we're ready, we can either post it, or hopefully, if it's a news item, you can schedule it for tomorrow. So I've covered a great deal there, but the point I'm making is if you use the default SharePoint templates, there's a huge risk that they will work better for email than they do for your intranet, and that they create this very wide reading experience, which is too much cognitive load. Whereas if we always use sections, and I am suggesting multiple sections down the page, we create a pleasant landing environment, and we also allow people to read in a reasonably narrow column, just like your favorite news websites. So that's a whirlwind tour of how to create a better page. The advanced tour, of course, is about creating templates that work for the real content that you have across your intranet. So I'm doing this for a medium large organization right now. We're developing 5 or 6 templates. They all look a little bit like this, but they're all a little bit different considering the different content categories that the organization regularly publishes.